Hello and welcome everyone to another Tea with Mel series. Today we are going to be talking all about herbal remedies to help support you with endometriosis and that nasty simple symptom of pain. So welcome. So lovely to have you here. If you're joining us new today, please say hello in the chat. Everyone knows I like to chat and see who's here with me. Today I have got a lovely chai and licorice tea. So chai is typically a combination of different kind of spices, and the particular ones that I'm interested in are clove and aniseed and star anise. Now, clove particularly has something amazing in it, which is a polyphenol. Polyphenols are fantastic for really supporting the body in reducing inflammation, but they also have another advantage, which is quite amazing, and it is that they support the Firmiculates. These are the good gut flora that help your gut get back in balance. Now, if you've been on contraceptive pills or synthetic hormones, or you've taken a lot of painkillers, more than likely your gut has become out of balance. And that is often the bigger picture of what is going on with endometriosis. So, supporting the good guys in your gut, your microbiome, will help reduce a lot of the symptoms associated with endometriosis. And polyphenols are one of those, namely cloves, which have quite high amounts of that. The other ingredient in here is licorice, which is one of the herbs I'm going to be talking about today. So I'm very excited to be talking all about herbal remedies. They are my favorite thing. They offer incredible healing power for the body. They are still, I do state that if you are on any medication, particularly blood thinners or antidepressants, please check with your doctor before taking anything that I recommend today, because a lot of these can have reactions between those, and we don't want to make, what you're taking have a negative effect on your health. So just want to make sure that you check everything that I suggest before taking it. Licorice is actually one that can have effects if you are taking blood thinners. So actually it's might even be on antidepressants as well. So maybe just check with your doctor on those before taking anything. Okay, welcome everyone. Lovely to have you here. If you're joining me, please feel free to share in the chat where you're from, what has brought you here. Love to hear from you. I am having a chai and licorice tea today. I mentioned already, but chai has got a fabulous spice called cloves, and cloves are very high in polyphenols, which is a really good healer for the gut, but also an anti-inflammatory. So really powerful and very easy to incorporate, especially if you make teas. So that particular tea, I have actually added milk with that, and a little bit of molasses. So molasses, very high in iron. The kind of people have gone off molasses a little bit, but I really like it. It's very high in iron and very high in nutrients, surprisingly enough. So yeah, but feel free to share where you're from and what has brought you here today. Okay, so what we're going to be covering today is quite in depth, because we're going to be talking about herbal remedies. And really what I like to do is not just focus on the symptom of pain, but really look at what is driving that pain, what is driving the endometriosis, and really addressing this from a holistic point of view. And what that means is we don't just look at the symptom of pain and treating just the symptom of pain, but actually the reason for that pain. And the reason for that pain is your body is in a state of inflammation. So at some point or another, something happened which drove up inflammation in the body. And yes, your diet has a huge part to play in that. And so that is always going to be my first point of call is what are you eating and what are you putting into your body 3 to 5 times a day, because that has a more dramatic effect on your overall health, when you think about what you're doing so many times a day. Other things that drive inflammation include things like stress, include things like other, gut imbalances, things like that. But today we are talking about herbal remedies. So I'm actually going to do this on my iPad because it's a little bit easier for me to explain. If you guys have questions at any point, please do use the comments. I want to help you. I'm here to help you. I'm giving you so much of this information completely for free because I want women to know what's out there. I want women to know that there are ways forward. I struggled for 15 years with endometriosis. I had 7 surgeries. None of that helped me. And it was only when I discovered natural medicine that I really shifted the endometriosis pain. I really was able to live a normal life. And now I live a normal life. I don't have pain. I don't have symptoms. I do this work because I want you not to go through what I went through. And I don't know how many times I can stress that. I still get random emails of people saying, well, you supposedly want to help people. I was like, how many years can I keep giving, keep doing? And, it's sometimes can be really hurtful what people say. But anyway, we'll move on from that. Right. So I'm going to jump over to my iPad. So this is my iPad. Hopefully you guys can see that. Let me know. You can see the screen. And we are going to be drawing. Not that that is a massive talent of mine, but it'll be a little bit easier for you to see what's going on. Okay. So I'll just pop back to that screen. And here we go. All right. So basically what we need to look at with endometriosis is actually what are the true triggers of endometriosis. And so if you guys have managed to join my free online course, please check that out if you haven't. It's amazing. We cover this quite well in that course. It's just a 30-minute course, but it's very, very entertaining and fun. So there are 3 areas that we look at. So there's inflammation as a whole. There's hormone imbalance. So these are the 3 areas that we look at with endometriosis. And then there's the immune system. So the immune system and what's going on with that. So these are the 3 areas that we look at with endometriosis. And there is overlap here because when the immune system is gone wonky, it triggers inflammation. When inflammation is elevated, it elevates estrogens. When estrogens are elevated, they elevate inflammation. So everything loops on itself. A lot of the time you will hear that this is the only area that you need to think about with endometriosis. And this is the area that most doctors and surgeons will focus on, which is why they put you on the pill or they put you on some kind of synthetic hormone. The reason for this is that in a lot of cases, women experience elevated estrogen. So there's too much estrogens, and it's that estrogens that actually cause the proliferation of the endometriosis. And because of the heavy bleeding, there's also a tendency for the actual lining of the uterus to be thicker. And so because of that, you may experience more heavy periods. However, and this is a big however, this is not the true trigger here. This is not truly what endometriosis is about. Yes, this situation happens, and yes, there is this imbalance in many, many, many cases, but not all women. And the reason for this is because endometriosis is actually an immune dysregulation. So there's something gone funky with the immune system. And because of that funkiness, inflammation has been driven up. So there's too much inflammation, and inflammation then has an effect on your hormones, and therefore there is that sort of perpetual loop going on. So what we want to do with endometriosis is actually focus on how do we lower this inflammation? How do we bring this inflammation down? Because the term inflammation may not mean that much to you. Maybe you're like, what do you mean by inflammation? Inflammation is ultimately what causes so many of those symptoms that you know with endometriosis. Pain, endobelly. So endobelly is essentially an inflamed belly. You've got adhesions that form in an attempt to heal. There is bloating. There is redness. These are all indicators of inflammation. So really what we're dealing with is heightened inflammation. And so when we address endometriosis from this perspective, it's quite different. I can tell you my own story when it comes to endometriosis and kind of this natural path. And really what happened for me was I went on all these hormone treatments over the 15 years. So I literally tried everything that I was recommended. None of that really took. I landed up on the pill for 7 years. And when I decided that none of these things were working for me, I wanted to get off them. And so my natural thinking was, I'm simply going to replace the hormone treatment that I'm on with a natural alternative. And surely that will be what I need to do. And maybe you've thought the same thing. Maybe you thought, okay, well, I don't want to go on synthetic hormones. So I'm going to go on a natural alternative. And so this is where I experimented with a lot of those hormone treatments that are more natural based. And a lot of women do this, and a lot of naturopaths recommend this with endometriosis. And to me, yes, there is a potent core where this may be supportive. So, maybe when you're coming off the pill, or maybe when, you're trying to just get some kind of normality within your hormone balance. But it is not a long-term treatment, in my opinion. In my opinion, we need to look deeper than that. Why is there a hormone imbalance in the first place? And so I experimented with things like maca, and I experimented with red clover and vitex and all of these different herbs that are often recommended with endometriosis. Unfortunately, we're not addressing the reason for that hormone imbalance. And that is what I want to share with you guys today, because I feel that this is really important for you to appreciate. The hormone imbalance is merely a symptom. It is not the true trigger here. And so when it's a symptom, we need to look deeper. Why is there that imbalance? Okay, so I hope that makes sense. If you guys want to share like what you're currently taking, or if this doesn't make sense to you, or if you want more information, please use the comments. I'm here for you right now. If you're here with me live, I love to hear from you. So don't be scared. I'm really, just a person on the other end of the world, most likely. All right. So coming back to where's my pen gone? I've lost my pen. It's disappeared. Uh-oh. Pen's gone. Dropped it somewhere. Oh, there it is. Okay. So coming back to our assessments. So we've got our 3 circles. These are the 3 areas. So we've got inflammation, hormone imbalance, and the immune system. Okay. Now, when we look at these 3 areas, basically what we want to do is look a little bit deeper. Okay, so the first one I'm going to look at is hormone imbalance, because I think that's the one you guys probably are most familiar with. So if we look at hormone imbalance in terms of herbal remedies, what we want to look at here is, okay, so we've got this elevated estrogen, and inevitably when that happens, when you have elevated estrogen, you have low progesterone. So these guys are kind of like your yin and yang, so if you imagine a seesaw and you've got estrogen up here and progesterone down here, okay, and this is what's causing a lot of those associated hormone symptoms. So some of them may be heavy periods, missed periods, blood clots, dark periods, PMS. You might have that you're not ovulating, or you're ovulating late, or there's sore breasts, there's migraines. These tend to be what's happening with hormone imbalances. So the reason for this is often to do with too many estrogens from external factors. So there are things like xenoestrogens. So xenoestrogens are basically estrogens that come from external things that are toxic generally, and they are acting like an estrogen. So when you have a cell and you have, basically the ability of an estrogen to act on a cell, it'll come along and place itself in here and act on that cell in a certain way. A xenoestrogen actually has an elevated action within the cell. So it tends to create this excess. And things like plastics, being on the pill, like even just external sort of toxins, these will all fall under this umbrella of being a xenoestrogen. And so it acts in a heightened level. So that's where this imbalance tends to occur. So another reason that this can happen, another reason for this kind of imbalance, is that your body is actually not excreting the excess estrogens that it no longer needs. So if there is excess estrogens, you want to basically poop them out. Now, if for whatever reason your digestive system is not working well, or your liver is not working well, then you're not going to get rid of those excess estrogens, and then they simply get reabsorbed back into the bloodstream. So the way to resolve this is actually to look at liver herbs. Okay, so we want to support the liver so it can get rid of those excess hormones effectively. And I did share one of the teas a while ago, which was rosemary. So rosemary was one of the teas that I drank with you guys a few sessions ago. So rosemary is one of my favorite herbs because it's super easy. You can grow it in your garden and it tastes quite nice. You literally just take a sprig of it and chuck it in some hot water and you have a tea that's super easy, and you don't have to massively think too much about it or buy anything. Rosemary also works on brain activity and helps with focus, so it has lots of benefits. Now, there are other liver herbs that you can take, and one of my favorites is milk thistle. So I'll just write this here. So we've got rosemary, milk thistle. And milk thistle actually supports your liver in healing the liver. So it'll really build up those liver cells. So if the liver cells have been damaged in some way, milk thistle has been shown to rebuild the liver. So it's an amazing herb for that. Now, we also can use something like Bupleurum. which is quite a bitter herb. And bitter things are actually really good for your liver. They really stimulate the liver. And so this is where we really want to look at your diet and what you're eating, because things like sugar create more work for your liver and will make your liver less active. So sugar will contribute to what is in Chinese medicine called a stagnant liver. So liver stagnation is a term that's used in Chinese medicine to describe a liver that's just not as active. It's just, it's almost like a low fire activity. It's just not a lot of activity. And so that's where using bitter herbs can be really, really supportive. Okay, does that all make sense to you guys? Do you want to ask me any questions? Okay, so those would be the ones that I'd really recommend. Is those? There's lots of other liver herbs, so I can go on and on and on about liver herbs, but these are the ones that I would typically recommend. Once again, I do need to stress that you please check with your doctor if you are taking any medication. Do not just take these things randomly. Everything has an effect. So depending on what you're doing with yourself, if you're on antidepressants, if you are, on any medication, blood thinners, anything like that, please do double check anything, because I am just going on a broad approach today rather than specifically telling you based on your situation. Okay, Larissa, yay. Hi, Larissa, nice to see you. Larissa is one of my favorite members. So do I mix the herbs at all? Yes, you can certainly mix. These ones are not bad to mix at all. Most herbs you can mix together. There's some that I probably wouldn't, but these would certainly be fine, especially if you have them separately. Rosemary, certainly easy to incorporate as a tea, and milk thistle, you'd probably get them as capsules. And Bupleurum, I would recommend Bupleurum as a tincture. It's disgusting. I will tell you, it does not taste good, but that's the whole point. The whole point is to stimulate the digestive juices, to stimulate the liver activity. And often I'll recommend women actually take Bupleurum in some kind of tincture, so some kind of liquid form, to really activate the liver activity and that bile activity. So it helps break down fats and gets the liver going. So yes, you can mix them, these particular ones. There are often liver formulas where, it's a combination of different herbs. So if you look at Solgar, for instance, one of my recommended brands, they will do a liver formula, and it often contains things like globe artichoke alongside dandelion, which is another fabulous, amazing plant for so many reasons. There's a reason we put it in our logo. Dandelion root is really, really powerful for the liver. And the leaves are really good for if you have kind of bladder issues or kidney issues. Really, really good for that. Easy to, it's a weed. So it's not hard to find. I often will leave the garden in a bit of a mess so that I can get my dandelion and violets that just grow wild. So yeah. So thank you for your question, Larissa. Okay. Right. So moving on. So we've done sort of a little bit of the hormone side of things. The other side of the hormones is really looking at your gut. So we really want to make sure that your gut is working efficiently. The main thing with the gut is that you're eliminating. A lot of the time I see women having constipation, So, if you struggle with constipation, it's really important that you get that sorted. Ideally, you actually need to be going more than once a day, even though we're told it's okay to go once a day. Ideally, you want to be going more than once a day. The herb, the dandelion root, actually helps with that. So dandelion root will help you go to the loo. And I'm pretty sure I've had dandelion on this show at some point. So dandelion root is a great coffee replacer. It has got that slightly bitter taste to it. It's not going to give you a caffeine hit, but that's kind of the point. So really good to have that to support your body in elimination. Gut is a whole other topic, and if you guys want me to talk about that, I can do that, but it's quite an in-depth topic, so we can cover that at another stage. Right. The next part of the picture is inflammation, and this is actually what I feel is where we really have a lot of power, but really a lot of power to influence how inflamed the body is. And ultimately, this is the approach that I take with the treatment of endometriosis, is really how do we reduce inflammation in the body? And there are incredible sources of this, incredible food sources of this. And I'm going way beyond just the basics of fruit and veg here. There are, like I shared with you earlier, things like cloves, incredible, because they are just so high in those polyphenols, ridiculously high levels of it. And polyphenols, incredibly good at lowering inflammation. And there's lots of those sort of things around. So that's really the focus that I like to take. So inflammation, some key things here. So there is an autoimmune component with endometriosis, in my opinion. It's definitely a trigger here. So that immune response is what's actually causing the inflammation to become elevated. You're going to have the painful periods, pain throughout your cycle. You may experience more high stress or anxiety. There is generally this endobelly situation going on, all of those kinds of things. So we approach this from the basically reducing that inflammatory response. And there are herbs that really do this very, very well. My favorite would have to be chamomile. Now, chamomile is a beautiful flower. You could grow it if you're that way inclined. But chamomile, really lovely for soothing the gut, and it also really lowers that anxiety. So chamomile is one of my favorite herbs to just overall support your body. They call it a carminative. So basically that name implies it does soothe, it does relax. And so chamomile would have to be one of my favorites for that. Now, some other ones that we can look at in terms of reducing inflammation. Let's have a look here. So let's have a look. So we want to look at things that soothe. So this is where the licorice also comes in. So that's what I shared with you guys today as to the tea that I'm drinking. If you can see, no. So licorice is one that also soothes the gut. And it's actually yummy. It's quite sweet. So if you have a tendency towards sweet things, licorice is a wonderful way to replace that craving. So I'm somebody who loves sweet things. So I find the licorice is incredibly yummy to have when I'm having those days. So licorice is one of those that I really like. And in terms of the other herbs for inflammation or lowering inflammation. So we have chamomile, licorice, I can't spell licorice. Licorice. There we go. And the other one is probably something green. So I would probably even go nettle. It's not really known to be an anti-inflammatory, but it does contain very high low levels of iron. So it really supports that iron absorption. And nettle is a very strong restorative. If we think about iron, it's really the blood and really supporting that body through. Okay, so those are just a few, just to get you started and really reducing inflammation in the body. However, when it comes to inflammation, and I just want to point this out, it's a bigger picture, so we can use herbs. We can also use diet. We also can use mindset and shifting. Lowering anxiety is a big factor here. So if you have high anxiety, you are driving inflammation. So we really want to get that anxiety level down. And so this is where using things like meditation, really looking at past traumas and healing those past traumas is imperative. Okay. And of course, looking at any toxins that contribute to that inflammation. So it's a bigger picture here. And if you want more, I have got my reach technique, which goes through this step by step as to how to actually treat inflammation and ultimately treat endometriosis. So hopefully that makes sense. If you guys want more information on this, please do let me know. Okay. Next, we are going to look at how we lower the oxidative stress. So this is ultimately a factor with inflammation, and there's lots of factors here, but what we're going to actually look at now is how we support the lymphatic system. Okay, so lymphatic system. So the lymphatic system is what I like to call the waste removal system. Okay, so it helps flush out the immune responses. It helps get rid of waste in the body, any toxins in the body. And so there are herbs that can do this really, really well. My favorite friend, the dandelion, is on top of the list. The other one is calendula. And if you have endometrial cysts, then this one is your friend. Preferably, you want to use calendula as a topical application. So you actually want to get the calendula and you want to place it on the lower abdomen and leave it there. Okay, so this is one of the approaches that we use in our Shrink My Cysts program. So if you want more info on that, you can check that out on the website. The other one is Cleavers. We also use this in the program. Now, Cleavers are those plants that stick to you. They're very cool. They're like, if you walk through the bush, they're like stick to you. So most places they consider these a weed, but they are fabulous for the lymphatic system. So all of these are going to support your lymphatic system. Okay. And ultimately what they do is they reduce that stagnation. So when you think of endometriosis, this is you. This here, this swollen belly is ultimately, there is blood stagnation. So the blood is not flowing freely. And this is what Chinese medicine describe endometriosis to be. So it's like a dirty puddle that's sitting in your abdomen. And when there's a dirty puddle, that's when cysts form. That's when you get clotty blood. That's when you get dark blood. These are indicators of blood stagnation. So by using lymphatics, we are encouraging that flow through the body. And so this is where these amazing herbs come into play. All right. And then ultimately, we are going to look at the immune system. Okay, and how we support the immune system to respond more normally to those dispersed cells. If you have not watched my introductory course, please go and check that out. It is so much fun and has so much amazing information. I will pop this in the comments for you guys so that you can join that. It is a really fun course, and you will get so much insight about what endometriosis is truly about, how you can treat it naturally, and really the approach that I like to take. So go and check that out. Okay. Now, coming back to the immune system, what we want to do here is just get the immune system to respond normally to those dispersed cells. So here's the uterus. Here's all these wonky cells all over the place. Now, what should happen is your body should just go, oh yeah, dispersed cells, I'll just go and clean that up. But it doesn't. It overreacts towards those cells, and ultimately that is what's causing endometriosis. Now, there's a really cool study about this showing that 90% of women, 90% of women experience dispersed cells. And yet 50% do not develop endometriosis. So the immune system has gone in and said, oh yeah, these funny cells, I'll just go and clean those up without any issue. Okay. And so there is some dysregulation that's occurred at some point. And so what we want to do is get our immune system back into a happy balance. Okay. And there are lots of factors here, of course, the gut, the liver, etc. I'm not going to say that these herbs are going to fix everything, but they will play a big part. Okay. The main ones I like is Echinacea, because it also works on the lymphatic system, really supporting the body. And I actually like to use mushroom powders. They're not really a herb, but you can get them in herbal formulas, but they are amazing for the immune system. So things like reishi, what's the other ones? Shiitake, can't think of them all now. There's so many, but you get mushroom formulas. Oh, my favorite is turkey tail. That's the one I'm taking at the moment. Really, really powerful to support the immune system. So if you've gone through COVID or you've been through COVID, it's probably a good idea that you take some of these to really support your immune system to really get back on track. A lot of women have expressed to me that their endo symptoms have gotten worse after having COVID. So it's really that the immune system is just still battling with that. So you really want to support your immune system through that. Okay. Anyone have any questions, anything they want clarification on, anything that you want more insight, feel free to share in the comments. Okay, so that is the key 3 areas that we look at. So we have covered quite a lot today: hormones, immune, and inflammation. So these are the key 3 areas that we like to address with endometriosis. If you want to get more insight on that, check out the free course. Details are below. And we've covered all the various hormone treatments, the herbal treatments that you can use to support each of these independently. You don't necessarily need to take hormones for each component. It depends on where you're at within your journey and what's going on for you. So if you're currently really noticing that the hormones are out of whack, then yes, take some of those. If you're really noticing that you feel more bloated and more pain, experiencing a lot more of that, then I would recommend focusing on reducing inflammation. Okay, so I'm just going to recap some of these for some people who maybe missed it. So inflammation, there's lots of factors here. So we don't want to just look at one thing. These are the ones that I recommend to support reducing that inflammation. Now, the other ones that I would probably recommend, is Cramp Bark. So Cramp Bark is a fabulous herb. Okay, so really, really lovely herb to really help reduce that pain, and especially over your period. You really want to take that a few days before, and it'll really support your body in reducing cramping, which is so cool. I have also done a YouTube live where I shared more of my supplement recommendations. You can also check that out. There's more information on other supplements that you can take. So right, now I'm just going to finish off by sharing some of the herbs that are personally the ones that I typically recommend for women, no matter what, when it comes to endometriosis. And the first one is yarrow. So yarrow is also a weed, but it is phenomenal for really helping you with endometriosis. It was used to really, the best way I could describe it is it sucks up gunk. I don't know. That's such a technical, sciencey term, isn't it? Sucks up gunk. Yay, we want to listen to you, Mel. But, it's kind of what it does. They used yarrow when people would be at war and they were losing a lot of blood, and yarrow was applied to really help absorb that blood. So if you suffer from heavy periods, amazing for that. Really helps a lot of the digestive stuff as well. Helps with the liver as well. So, if you don't take away anything else from today, just take yarrow. Honestly, it is just like your all-encompassing amazing herb. And I do recommend it we're launching our Drop My Pain Challenge, and it's in there because it is such an incredibly wonderful herb to use. So you can drink that as a tea, is my recommendation. It is not the nicest tasting, it is quite bitter, but that's the point. You can also get it as a tincture, which is my second recommendation. So tinctures are basically you taking a plant, you're putting it in some alcohol, and all the constituents that are found within the plant thereby get absorbed into the alcohol. So it's a very concentrated form of that particular plant. And then you're literally having a few drops 2 to 3 times a day of that tincture. Okay, that is my second recommendation. And if none of that works for you, then go the supplement route. The problem with supplements is you have no idea where it's come from, what else is in there. The body is also having to deal with the packaging itself. So it's having to process that and break that down. And so there's always a question of absorbability. When it's a tincture form, there's a much more likelihood that your body will absorb it and take it in. Okay. So anyone have any other questions, anything they want to ask me? This will be available on YouTube after this. So if you missed the beginning for whatever reason, then you can watch it again later. I am very excited to have this free course that gives you the outline of the 3 areas that we discussed today. So if you haven't joined that yet, make sure you do, because it's a very fun, interactive course. We're doing the whole Indiana Jones vibe, so it's really fun. Okay, so I'm going to be on for another 5 minutes. If you have any questions, if there's anything you want to ask me, now's a chance. Herbs are amazing. Herbs are your friend, and they don't need to be intimidating. They can be biggest supporter of healing your body, because they don't have side effects like, some of the other things that you can take. You're not having to deal with things that are unpleasant. So herbs are really my biggest friends when it comes to healing and supporting the body. I do recommend herbs for periods of time or for specific areas at a given time. Don't necessarily think you need to be taking them forever. So depending on what's going on for you. Okay, any questions? No questions from anyone? Okay, well, it's lovely to have you here. Hope you got some insights out of this. If you did, please click the like button underneath the video, because it helps me with the Google rankings. Trying to get my Google rankings up. So just hit the little thumbs up button. Thank you, Larissa. You're such a beautiful woman. I do hope we get to meet one day. But yeah. All right. Well, thanks, guys. And look forward to next week. If there's any topics you want me to cover, feel free to email us at support@endoempowered.com. We look forward to helping you on your endo journey and making your life better. Okay. Bye.